Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the guest lecture series by Emeritus India Career Services. I'm Shivam Gupta, and I'll be moderating this session today. If you have any question during the session, please type them into the Q&A box, and I'll bring them up during our Q&A round. For our session today, we have with us Meenal Ashtikar. Meenal is currently the head of Data, BI, and Analytics at State Street. Prior to State Street, Meenal was heading the BI and Data Analytics division for 9 years at Acrotrend, London, and she is with us today to take us through the topic Essential Skills for Analytics Success. Meenal, it's a pleasure to have you with us here. Welcome again, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here talking with an unusual crowd. I don't normally talk with the academia, so to speak. We do have certain partnerships actually with some of the universities where we do pre-placement talks and some mentorship sessions, but this is a little different to me. So thank you for having me here. Do you want to start or do you want to?
We can start now.
Okay. So hello everyone, a warm evening to all of you. Brilliant weather today in Bangalore. I'm not sure if everybody is right now in Bangalore or not. But yes, lovely to have you. Thanks for joining. And I hope you can get some value from the session that we speak. So the topic is essential skills for analytics success, right? And I thought this topic would be relevant because you're now going through the journey of upskilling or cross-selling, and you would like to contribute on some of the analytics initiatives in whichever firms either you're working right now or you would be probably looking to work in the future or near future. And I have worked, so the earlier job that Shivam just mentioned, I was a business partner with a management consulting firm, which was a boutique firm and a niche firm in customer analytics. My role is a little bit different with State Street, but that's the kind of experience, around a decade of experience that I have on core analytics and making it successful. And in my mind, no analytics projects are unsuccessful, and I'll come to that a little bit later. But now you're actually going through some of the modules, some of the courses that are actually equipping you to take up analytics roles or data science roles or data analyst roles probably. And I would and I've gone through some of the curriculums, right? So I think that's quite intense, that's comprehensive with respect to the technology and the skills that you will need from a technology perspective. So very important. One of the first, of course, if you want to get into the skill, if you want to get into analytics projects, and if you have any, hope, if your management has any hope to make it successful, your foundation cannot be wrong. I mean, you cannot have data engineers works on analytics projects, for example, right? So the first bucket of skills definitely would be the technical skills, in which case you would probably have, and technical skills doesn't necessarily mean tools, right? I mean, it has a different gamut of things or a different dimensions to that technology. So one part of it is technical with respect to the data itself. So you would be going through, say, some of the statistical techniques, some of the statistical models, and just kind of investigating the data and analyzing the data. That itself is quite a core skill. Is that required for all the kind of analytics project? Maybe or maybe not. It really depends. But having that kind of flavor of of statistics definitely gives you a little bit of an edge to understand what you're dealing with. Right. So that's on the data analysis part. You would of course have some knowledge on tooling. You would need some knowledge on tooling, on where you would basically do your exploratory data analysis. You would need some kind of data querying skills for the initial understanding of the data, for profiling of the data possibly, right? And querying large data sets. We're not every instance is a large mega kind of a data analysis instance, but you would definitely run into use cases where you're literally talking about terabytes of data, right? So what are different techniques for different volumes of data? That's something that you should know. And then, of course, finally, you would need to understand the analytics techniques itself, which is your models, algorithms, and the tools and technologies that support to build and execute those models. So you've probably, all of you must have heard of Python, R. These are like the programming languages, and then there are some tools or platforms which help you do that better. There's low code, no code kind of things coming up. There's a lot of drag and drop kind of business happening also, right? But essentially, you need to know the concepts. Even if you're using some of the, the tools which give you out of the box features to kind of select the models and drag and drop them, ESS, PSS, also. But you need to understand the underlying concepts to deploy any of these techniques. So I'm sure whatever courses you're doing is doing a great job with just, taking you through different aspects of these toolings, different aspects of the algorithms, models. There are many types of models, but also there are just fundamental few which you would need to understand which to apply in which cases, right? There are supervised, there are unsupervised, there's machine learning, and all of those things. I think I'll not be doing justice to the technical part if I don't talk about some of the new features, right? Some of the new things that we are, or the emerging. Okay, there's a lag between the speaker audio and the video. Shivam, do you find that as well?
No, Meenal, it's not there for me.
All right. Okay. And that might be on your side then. Maybe just change the network or something. I think some of the emerging things that you will need to do, and I know that this is like you're doing like an academic course, so you may or may not have access to it, but there are so many open source that helps you actually operationalize the models, right? Where you could maybe automate some of the models. So in fact, there are models for models which will help you actually operationalize that and take it to scale. And you call it ML ops, or you call it, whatever. There are different terms doing the in the market. But definitely there are certain new techniques to kind of make the modeling lifecycle faster, better, more robust, and more efficient with respect to the scale out. So I think those are some of the things that you should start looking at, even if you do not have access to actually try it out. Then there are different kind of use cases why you would do an analytics model for. Right? So obviously you're not just taking random set of data and putting random models on it. You're not doing you're looking for something which will basically solve a business problem. So there has to be a business use case, right? And from a technical model and algorithms perspective, you would need to understand which kind of models are amenable to what kind of business use cases. So that is quite a lot. That is sometimes pretty simple, but other times it can get confusing because many models can, answer a specific use case, and then it really drills down to your expertise in terms and experience, actually, not just expertise in what kind of models work best. Many a times it is not unusual to find that you would need multiple models work in conjunction, which is called the ensemble of models, right, to basically answer a use case. So I think with that, I'll just take a segue in the business use cases, right, and the business part of it. So the second bucket, which is absolutely critical to make any analytics project successful, is for the team and individuals working in the program to understand the business itself. Right? We cannot be working in a cave to say that I will solve this problem without actually getting our feet wet in that industry or in that domain. So there are, again, multiple layers to this, right? So one is just the industry. If you're in, I just saw a keyword over here, healthcare. So if If you're in the healthcare industry, then understand how and which part of the healthcare, right? Provider healthcare or the clinical research kind of a thing, but drug manufacturers, and there are multiple things in there as well. So trying to understand where you really are, what your industry nuances are, what your industry's business models are, the revenue generation models are, what your industry's risk models are, models as in operating models, I'm saying, and what your industry's typical trends are. What are you trying to address, and typical challenges which are current to that industry. So understanding your industry in the that you operate in, or that you are trying to solve the problem, is very, very important. And then I would say the next layer to it is the domain. So though you are, say, in the healthcare industry and say in healthcare providers, really what is the domain that you're talking about? You might be doing models, financial models in a healthcare industry, or you might be doing customer analytics model, customer churn models, or profitability models, or customer lifetime value models for a healthcare industry. So what is that domain? Is it like a domain or a function? Or really, is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it a supply chain within that? Is it more of finance within that? So you need to understand that also. So that's the next level, a layer. And thirdly, wherever you're working, in whichever organization you're working, it's absolutely critical for you, for the analytics team, to understand the corporate strategy. Right? Because if you are trying to do certain experiments which are not aligned to the strategy, then I don't think there will be a buy-in to your experiments, to buy into the results. I mean, unless the results are like phenomenally eye-opening, or from a revenue perspective, whatever perspective, that though it might not be on the strategy, but really the company definitely will benefit from it. I don't think otherwise there will be any success with that. You'll just be burning a lot of dollars. So understanding your industry, the domains, and the corporate strategy is very, very important, because you should just be in direct line of sight in all these three layers. And then, of course, that will help you basically, define the analytics experiments, define the analytics use cases. Then you would say that because my company, say, is a healthcare company, or is a lifestyle company, or retail, or whatever company, and our strategy is to, say, acquire more customers, then you could run experiments on customer acquisition. You could do lookalike modeling. You could do, product market fix. Product customer fit. You could do market basket analysis, and all of those kind of good things. But then it needs to be aligned to, like I said, the strategy, right? So business use cases, understanding business use cases, and trying to kind of articulate that is a very, very important skill. And that then kind of leads us to the little bit more smaller bucket of maybe the same umbrella of business, is the business analysis, right? Business analysis skills. So you like I always say, you cannot take analysis out of analytics. It has to be there. Analytics is just a technical and automated way, and somehow machine learned way, or unsupervised way, or scaled out way of doing what a human would do, right? And human person would actually not only implement or put their technical expertise in place, but also you would put your logical thinking hat, right? You would have some hypothesis which you are trying to prove in the positive or in the negative, right? So that analysis cannot go out. So you will need to understand really, for whom are you trying to solve this problem? Right? Is there a problem in the first place? Are you trying to look at solving a problem, or are you trying to kind of discover an opportunity? And these are two very different ball games, right? When you're trying to solve a problem, you would have a very Sherlock Holmes kind of attitude, right? Where you're after a murderer, right? Then you would line up all your clues to get to the murderer, right? You would be very focused. Everything that doesn't lead to a murder is, a distraction and all that sort of a thing. So when you're trying to solve a problem, the approach that you would take is a very different. The analytics approach you would take is very different. And versus if you're trying to find an opportunity, if the firm has tasked the team or a program to find out, okay, what we can do more, what innovation can we can bring, what is our data telling that there are some opportunities for us to explore, then that's a Columbus way of doing analytics, right? Where you take a ship, you put some analysts in that ship, and you sail out into the wide open ocean of data. You don't know what you will find, right? You don't know, you might find small nuggets, you might find big ruins, big treasures, but that's really the appetite and the approach. The appetite of failure should be higher in those cases, right? And the experimentation mindset will be more in that case also. And you are looking for nothing specific, but then the alertness of what models throw out, you will need a lot of business acumen for that. So depending on what the use case is, you would actually employ different styles of business analysis onto it. So that's another skill I think that you should look out for. And again, when the program is onboarding on any of the analytics journey, it's very important to put a measurement and a success criteria to it, right? Because then you are working towards that. Then you are also seeing along the way whether your models are really working and taking you towards that goal, or they're not working. So then you can re-experiment or reject something and find different ways of doing analytics. Again, if you're not moving any closer to the success criteria or the measurement criteria. And I'll come back to this later because it's really very important, because the topic itself is success, right? How do you define success? All right. So I'll come back to this again in a moment. And then the fourth bucket, I would say, is, and I think most of our analytics programs struggle or even sometimes fail because of this one skill, which we do not carry. It's most ignored skill, and it's most commonly used term on communication. How do we communicate, right? How do you write the statement of the problem statement? How do you write the use case? How do you write, again, like I'll come back to success criteria. How are you going to measure it? How are you going to communicate it? How are you going to, produce the insights on top of what the model throws? So the model is not going to say you, unless they are like hugely prescriptive models, you're probably going to make predictive models and do the prescription on top of it yourselves, or with the help of the analytics board or wherever, right? Your audience is, the decision-making audience is not going to be tech savvy. They're not going to understand what is the chi-square thing, or they're not going to understand your standard deviation. Maybe they're not going to understand the probability 0.08 or 0.8. What does it mean for the business? So it's important for the analytics team to have that skill of translating the model output, which is very technical output, which is very statistical output perhaps, into something that you can then tie back to your business, to your function, to say that we got this results. The probability is, how can you then take the whole sort of output and produce insights out of that? There's where your skills of how do you present the data? How do you visualize the outcome? Visualization skill is an important part of your communication. And I'm not talking just about a bar chart or a graph chart, right? You might do segmentation on top of the outputs. You might say, okay, these are the segments of the output that we got, which you can address. These are the kind of insight that you can, which is just a noise. You can remove that. And these are my top, insights where I can say low-hanging fruits, where you can really get near-term results, win-win results. And then the next step where you say, okay, these are the long-term bets, but really we should also be working on this, right? So how do you basically present the output, put a story around that output, so you get a buy-in from your audiences, from your decision makers, from your stakeholders. And also, how do you basically, build an action plan around it. So how can you, with that output, whatever the models are telling you, and then your work on top of it to wrap it up, how can you work with the business? How can you have those discussions or workshops with the business to come out with an action plan? More often than not, the models tell you something, right? And you're able to actually also see that there is some meaning in the insights that you can derive from the outputs, but you don't know how to now action it. You might come up with retention models, right? You might come with customer churn models saying that we know that this specific set or segment of customers, we think from our models they're going to churn, they're going to stop doing business with you, they're going to a competitor maybe. All right, understood. Now what? Right? How do I action that? What kind of retention campaigns can I run? What kind of offers will excite what kind of customers? Right? So it's not enough just to have analytics output, but how do you basically then analyze the output and say that this is the action plan, and how can you actually communicate the messages with your stakeholders and work with them collaboratively to come up with the action plan. And then there's where your communication skill or articulation skill will come into picture to devise the measurement criteria. So we'll coming back to that, right? What is the measurement criteria? How are you going to say that the campaign was successful? So that's how you would then probably link all of the skills together to make the program successful. So those are my 4 buckets of the skills, right? Technical skills, definitely, because that's the core. Business skills, because that's what you're working for. That's what will pay you the bills, right? The third thing is how do you analyze what the models tell you, and then how do you communicate that essentially. Happy to take in any questions now, and let's just make it more interactive discussion.
Sure, Meenal. So the first question that we received was from Prasanna. He's asking, would doing an MBA add value if you want to become a data scientist, or would a business analyst course would suffice?
Data scientist term is quite abused in the markets. A lot of people don't understand, and even if you ask me to articulate what do you mean by data scientist, I don't think I can do justice to that term, because that term means different things in different industries. It means different things for different corporates, right? So I think data science is a very, 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 very broad topic. So from an education perspective, I would say yes, you will need to have the business analysis kind of an acumen, right? You can gather that by experience, by doing those kind of roles in organizations and learning it through real-time work, or you can gather that from very immersive MBA courses. So definitely, MBA courses from good tier institutes will help you and will give you that exposure in terms of how to approach a problem. It will give you frameworks and tools to basically do that, but then experience of business analysis will actually equip you better to so that experience has to be there, right? So I would say it's a combination of both, but definitely, it is one of the essential skills, and it will definitely will be required. Is it only sufficient? I cannot say that, because it then depends on what data scientist means for that. Yeah.
So, Meenal, you just mentioned that a lot of people use data scientists very casually, and I think it would be very useful for our audience if you can just give a brief on what would be the difference between business analyst, a data analyst, and a data scientist, because a lot of time people club all three, or they use interchangeably.
Yeah. Okay. So business analysis is very close to the business, the core business, right? The processes of the business. If you are into sales, and the sales processes and how they are working, how your sales processes can be aligned to the business that you are doing, and that's your core of the business analysis. You may or may not actually be concerned about the data, but you're looking at all the points. You will be leveraging the data, but not working with the data essentially, right, to be a business analyst. there you would definitely need a lot of industry knowledge. You will definitely need a lot of, in some industries, some industries are very highly regulated industries, right? Finance, where I work now, or healthcare, right? The patent industry. You will need core business understanding if you want to be like a successful business analyst. For a data analysis, you will need, say, like a 30-40% of business analysis and 60-70% of understanding the data, right? Understanding how to slice and dice that data, how to profile the data, how to basically make the data talk, right? If I give you like an Excel sheet with, say, 10,000 records, can you get me just what that data is telling you? Right? So how do you analyze that data? So that's a very different skill of understanding. It's almost like, the numbers and the percentages and the discrete values should be dancing in front of you if you have that Excel, right? You should be able to churn out, say, like I said, 10,000 of records and say, 50 columns out there in a very crisp summary to me, saying that if I ask this question, then that's the answer from this data. You're not putting your own story around it. I mean, you'll build a story from that data, but you're not putting your own information in it, right? So data analysis is more of taking that raw data and trying to get a story out of it. Yeah, it's almost like interrogating the data instead of a person, on asking different questions to the data and knowing how to get that answer from the data without actually getting into sometimes, like, Excel is also a tool, right? You're not doing it manually. So, but Excel is a very rudimentary tool. There are actually some of Excel plugins and add-ons that will actually help you to the modeling. I'm not sure if that's covered in any of your courses. Yeah, we don't give due credit to Excel as such, because we so get distracted and with the gloss of the AI tools or the analytics tool, that many of the problems, actually 80% of the problems, are so simple they can be done with Excel and some add-ons on Excel, really, right? But of course, there are limitations with respect to the volumes of data and the latency that you might have in processing that data. Of course, all of that will come into picture, but really, the data analysis is exploring the data to answer some basic questions. And then data science is something that you cannot do with these tools, something that you cannot just do by looking at the data. It might be the volume. The volumes could be huge, and it's just not possible to basically do analysis by a human. Though the problem statement may be simple, but just sheer volume is so much that you basically can't get to an answer in a month, right? And you need it like tomorrow or yesterday. That's where data science comes into picture. It could be the variety of the data. Now you're not in a very structured world anymore, right? It's been decades that we have passed that chasm of getting into unstructured domains. So how can you match the structured data with some server logs, maybe some clickstream data, maybe, right? Some images, right? Some audiovisual clips. How can you actually analyze all of that stuff and the structured data, which is rows and columns, which we are so used to basically get into that? So that then becomes more complex, right? When you try to attach these different dimensions. And of course, so volumes, variety, and the speed, the velocity, right? Which we just touched upon. If I give you like a batch data saying that, okay, this is terabytes of data, and you just sit on that, and you can probably come back after a few weeks saying that this is what I found from the data analysis. But if I'm giving you a fresh set of data every hour, then obviously you will fail there, right? So that's the data science. Data science is basically looking at all of this, and we call this big data, right? Where all of these different kinds of things are coming together, and you need to produce outcomes quickly. Not necessarily depending on what you know, but what the data is telling you implicitly from the trends and the patterns, which your naked eye cannot actually track, is what data science is. So you will then apply algorithms to it. You will apply different tools to just expedite those algorithms as well, and so on and so forth. So it's like a technical spin to it, I would say that would be the data science.
That solves a lot of covers a lot of questions altogether.
Okay. Sure.
I'll
Sure.
move on to the next one. So Chandan is asking, I'm a senior technical lead in a NPD medical devices, looking for a smooth transition into product management. Do you have any suggestions to achieve this goal?
Product management, I would need a little bit more, like, I'm assuming, like, what kind of product manager? IT product management, or I'm assuming it's not a hardware kind of a thing.
He's in a technical lead in medical devices.
Technical
he's-
product management.
Yeah, he just mentioned on the chat technical
Yeah.
product.
Right. So sorry, what was the question? If you were to go from
He's a senior technical lead in NPD medical devices.
and get into the product management.
Getting into product.
Yeah. Okay. Not a difficult thing to do at all, right? It could be quite streamlined. I mean, I think if you're right now closer to technology, so where does the product role fit in, right? The product role fits between the business and the technology. It's not a technical role and it's not a business role. It sits in between that. It marries the business problems and solution that you want to build with what the technical capabilities are. Right. So if you are strong on the technology side, I would, suggest, Chandan, for you to look at the business side of things a little bit more to augment your skill in terms of, business analysis, design thinking, kind of stuff, where you would say, okay, if I were to solve this kind of a problem, what kind of features will I need? If these are the kind of audiences, how can I make their product journey or solution journey, and you're building the products, I'll not call it product journey, the solution journey easier. Right. And that's where you will be able to then say, okay, I'm a product manager who will or a product owner who would say that these are the features or the capabilities that the technical team needs to build, and I would provide oversight to it. I would then work with the business if that kind of solution that the technical team comes up with works for the business. Right. So that's basically role. So you have to understand what that role first means, and then you would be able to really figure out what different skills you will need around it to basically be successful or make that transition smoothly. But if you're already on the technical side, I assume that you're very strong over there, then you might want to kind of focus on the business side of things a little bit.
Okay. So Santosh,
One more thing on that. When you're a product manager or a product owner, right, one very important thing is the mindset, because products don't get built overnight. They don't get built in one release, in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 months even. So I would say, apart from your business analysis, business skills and business analysis skills and design thinking kind of skills, one very important mindset to have is the agile mindset on, how do you develop products mindset, right? And how the concept of MVP, minimum viable product, is very important. How do you do the road mapping for product development? That's very important thing for a product owner or a product manager to have as well. So there are books on this, right? So, you could just probably start getting conversant with those concepts as well.
Okay, so next, Santosh is asking, can you please throw some light on the term analytics consulting, which the big 4 companies do?
Okay. Analytics consulting. Consulting is another quite abused word, because when I was a consultant, and like I said, I was a management consultant, analytics consultant for like a decade, and I was in the UK. And in that journey, we had actually, from a very small startup, we took ourselves to being FTSE silver rated organization as management or analytics consultant. What does it mean really, from my experience, and this may not be an industry definition of it, but from my experience, what I understand from analytics consulting is you need to, and that's true for probably most of the consulting thing, is that you need to be on top of what the trends are and what trends work for what kind of scenarios. You can't just say that, okay, ChatGPT is like the buzzword and let me put this for this particular solution. It doesn't work like that, right? Your job as a consultant is to look at all the options that are available. Actually, your first job is to understand the problem. What are you consulting on? What is the problem that you're trying to solve or give suggestions or recommendations on? Because that's what a consultant would do. You would go and say, okay, Mr. Customer or Miss Customer, this is your problem and this is what I suggest you do and address to solve this problem. So first thing is you need to absolutely get to the core of the problem. What is the real problem? Because many a times, people don't define problems properly, right? People don't know if that is the right problem. That might be a symptom of a problem, right? And you might just get into a trap of solving the symptom rather than solving the problem. So it's very important for a consultant to understand the problem and understand the right problem, and then understand the right solution for that problem for that customer, right? Because you might say that, okay, say, Snowflake or whatever works as a great thing for, as a cloud data warehouse or whatever, right? Is that for everyone? Maybe not. How much ever Snowflake says? No, right? It might not work for. So what are our options? Best of class options, or what are those optimum things that you can use to solve a problem is what a consulting would be. Those are the suggestions. Your job is not to take decisions as a consultant. As a consultant, your job is to basically propose options to solve a problem. The decisions lies still with the clients or the customers or whoever you're trying to solve the problem for, but your job is to equip them to take that decision, right? Same applies for analytics. So analytics consultants means having a full knowledge of the whole analytics gamut, the areas what analytics can solve, how they can solve it. So it's a very broad book of knowledge that you would carry with you, right? That's your ammunition. Then you would converge it, saying that, okay, if this is your problem and this is what you need to solve, then out of my backpack that I have, my magic bag, you can only use 2 because rest 3 are useless for you. They will not work for you, right? So what analytics technique would you use? How would you measure that analytics success? What tools you would use for that? Would you use R, Python programming, or would you go for low code, no code kind of a thing? Would you go to cloud, or would you rather do on-prem or things like that, right? So you would know all of that, but you would not deploy all of that, for a particular use case. So that's what I can probably add. And I can talk very passionately, for a long time on this, but I would probably, stop here. Yeah.
So Meenal, we have a lot of people asking questions about if they are coming from one particular industry like healthcare or manufacturing or teaching or someone in banking industry with 10 or 12 or 25 years of experience, let's say. What is your suggestion? Because if we take on each question with each domain, that will take a lot of time. So again, the question is similar for everyone. Like they are working in one industry for a couple of years or even for longer time, but they want to move their career into data science. Would they be considered as a fresher, or if they want to get into it, what would be the best way to do it? And if someone who has 25 years of experience, would their previous experience matter, or would they be considered as a fresher and their salary would be equivalent to the fresher or something like that? So similarly, a lot of people have asked for different industries.
Sure. So the approach, I would say, would differ at what level you are of experience right now. If you are starting, then it doesn't matter so much. It's quite, I would say, easier to move, in the sense that, yes, you have experience of 2 years or 1 year on specific things, because when you have that experience, the industry, I mean, unless you are like a rock star in that particular industry, right? You cannot claim, and people will not probably even believe that it's just not possible for you to understand the industry that much in 1 year, right? Or in 2 years. So it's just not possible. So what you are then banking on for a change is your technical knowledge. So you better be very, very strong in the technical aspects of it, in which that's a transferable skill. Right? Banks use Python, healthcare uses Python, and somebody else uses Python, correct? So at that level where you are, say 0 to 5 years or 6 years or even 7 years, be very strong in the technical part, because that's your trump card. As you go up, obviously the expectation is if you've worked in a healthcare industry for a few years, then you would have gathered that domain knowledge. Then the thing is how fast you can then the idea then is if you were in 3 years, 4 years, even 4, I would probably start from 3 years, 4 years, right? That I would expect somebody to understand about the business, understand about that industry, in which case then I would expect that I would then see that how fast are you able to learn a new domain, right? Have you taken 5 years to understand the basics of the industry, or have you taken 2 years? Which then gives anybody who wants to switch and anybody who wants to take a lateral person into a team to understand, fine, I mean, yes, I understand this person is from healthcare, but he or she has been able to gather that knowledge, that amount of knowledge in healthcare just in 2 years or 3 years, definitely tells me that yes, if I give them an opportunity, then they'll be able to get that knowledge in finance industry or in automobile industry or whatever that might be in similar amount of time frame, right? So that gives us the confidence that yes, you are able to acquire new skills as well. It's not rocket science, right? It is very easy. Then it becomes what is your learnability on different domains? So definitely it is possible. It's not very difficult, but as depending on what kind of roles you're looking for, the level of difficulty or the level of effort you will have to put in to prepare yourself for that transition will differ. Then there are some industries which are really, really quite core, right? So if, for example, I'm a chemical engineer by academics, right? I have done my chemical engineering, but now I'm into finance. Right. And I did all sorts of things when I was in the earlier organization because I was a consultant and I was supposed to know all of that. All right. So I knew healthcare, I knew pharma, I knew lifestyle business, I knew retail, I knew banking to some extent, I knew insurance. Right. So then the ability was, then that's the skill. It's in itself, how fast you can pick and how fast can you transition into the new domain. But what you have done while you are learning new domains or businesses is now in your mind, you've developed a framework on how to address this, right? How to get the foundational knowledge, how to get into the specialist area, how to build that depth in this. Will you need to look at legal aspects of it? Will you need to look at regulatory aspects of it? It's not just the industry, right? What are the nuances of this industry? Now you have a framework to get that. So that's what probably we are looking for when we are looking for transitional, candidates. So long answer, I know, but I think if I were to just condense it, right, then if your initial stages and you're trying to make that move, make sure that your technical skills are totally on point. If you are little bit more experience into your existing areas that you are in, then make sure that you have evidences to show that quick learnability into others. If you already know that I want to get into this particular domain, right, then start reading about it already. Get to understand, the industry and the business already, so that then you can actually show that yes, not only you're basically preparing for that. Right, you're coming prepared. You're not coming raw.
So Dr. Ruchin Arora is asking, how do we club project management and business analytics to help higher management and decision making, streamline processes, and move on to the next project? What kind of role is this suitable as a okay, there's some grammatical error, but question is, what kind of role is this suitable as a career?
Okay, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to try to paraphrase the question. Is the question, how does business analysis skills and project management skill can be combined? What kind of role is that? Okay. I have a news for you. If you are in an industry, which in the IT industry, wherever, if they are really even doing any justice to the time era that we are operating in, then you will not have a project manager role anywhere. Right? That's becoming more and more obsolete as a role. Right? Also because you might have leads, program leads, right? You might have initiative leads, but our traditional understanding or conventional understanding of what a project manager does, it's becoming more and more obsolete in the kind of environment that we operate in right now. Business analysis will never go out of fashion, right? You will need to have that unless you want to become, and even if you want to become like a technical architect, right, you will need to understand what you're building the architecture for, right? I used to sit on the business design authority boards, where we used to challenge the architecture. Can your architecture do this? Can your architecture give me resiliency? Can your architecture give me this? So even when you're building the architecture, you need to think about the business. When you're building the technical architecture, even you need to actually think about the business. So there is probably no, there are very, very few or even no maybe roles which our understanding is core technical, that will require zero knowledge of the domain or business, right? So definitely if you're operating in a commercial world, right, if you want to make, if you're in a business, the business is there to make money, the business is going to have customers, right? The business is going to have different regulations or governance or something around it. You will need to understand even if you are a technical person in that. So business analysis definitely. Now, yes, your skills in terms of giving an oversight, trying to understand that, okay, these are different elements in a particular initiative or a project or a program. Yes, we do definitely need people to kind of connect all the dots, to make left hand talk with the right hand, to get that collaboration going and all of that stuff. So there are roles to provide that oversight and guidance. But so yes, there are those roles there. These are like emerging roles, right? And sometimes we call them program leads, sometimes we call them, solution leads, so to speak. But traditional project management, I don't think will exist in near term.
We have few more questions.
Sure.
We'll take it till for another 10 minutes. I think
Sure.
we have only 10 minutes left.
Sure.
All right. So if you want to glance through a few of the questions on Q&A, we can also do that, or I'm just picking up few.
Am I looking at the chat or should I be looking at Q&A?
Q&A.
Okay.
Q&A only.
Okay, I have a very interesting question here. Interesting because how is data science used in commercial operations activities of big pharma, and how is it going to evolve? Incidentally, I have worked with a very big global pharma drug manufacturers organization in the commercial area for that. So that's why I'm probably picked this up also, because I can add there. Commercial operations of pharma is sales and marketing. They have a very, very unique model. They are B to B to B to B to C kind of a scenario, right? Because so GSK doesn't come to your house to sell their medicines or vaccines, correct? None of the other robots or whoever are the drug manufacturers in the pharma domain, they don't have access actually to their end customers or consumers, right? So their model is very different. Their commercial model is that they have sales and marketing. They have this concept of MRs who would just create the buzz, right? And then they have distributors. So their first point of contact might be distributors. Then their seconds are the hospitals. Then their third is the doctors who actually prescribe their drugs to or medicines to the patients who are the consumers, right? They are not even selling their drugs to the doctors. They're not selling their drugs directly to the hospitals even. So it's a distributed, very, very distributed model. The more layers you involve, the lesser control you have on the insights of the feedback that's coming on. And you have then very little time to basically, you can't tweak your products as quickly. And we're not talking about clinical research here, right? This is actual commercial. So definitely there's a lot to be done over there. There are multiple initiatives with this as a focus on how you can do analytics at scale and at meaning in commercial operations of the pharmaceutical industry. There's a lot of scope for data science that will involve, because it is not a direct customer model, it will be quite a layered kind of analysis that you would do. And that's probably where the struggle is at the moment. But anything that can help. And there will be a lot of unstructured kind of data science coming in, because the voice of the customer is literally on social media somewhere probably, or in some research papers or something like that. It's very hidden right now. And there's a lot of noise in that area, right? So to basically get the insights from there and bring it at a level where you can actually action that with respect to what kind of drugs you should produce versus not produce, it's going to be a huge area. So definitely a lot of I would say opportunities over there. Have you picked anything, Shivam, that you want me to address?
So Mukambika is asking about the scope of HR analytics in the current market, if you have any views on that.
Anything futuristic only will go higher. If you look at India market right now, and where we are playing, and if you're tracking any of the economy around talent, then India is the epicenter of that right now, right? It's not China for obvious risks, and it's not EU so much, and it's probably talent market was never probably US. So from a region perspective, India is the talent epicenter right now. And it is just so volatile and dynamic at the moment. And it is evolving at an unprecedented rate. Hybrid working has come in, correct? Suddenly we are off the millennial and we are on Gen Z. So the ways of working have changed. My team uses Discord for communications. And I'm like, somebody tell me what Discord is. But how our workforce is contributing to the business is very different than how it was probably a decade back, and it's continuously evolving. And obviously, like I said, hybrid has brought in a lot more dimensions onto this. HR analytics will only get more intense, will only get more value and focus and spotlight in the coming years. So a lot of scope with respect to skill development, because you blink and there's a new technology. How are we enabling our workforce to onboard those new skills and new, not just technical skills, but also managerial skills, also leadership skills, also behavioral skills, right? So skills analysis and analytics and learning analytics is one area. Learning management systems just get the data, but there's a huge amount of, with remote and virtual sessions and all of that happening. Analysis, yes, very important. Employee retention, attrition, employee engagement, employee experience is an area, right? Right from pre-hiring till until they kind of the entire life cycle, right, of an employee. Benefits. Performance analytics of how people are really performing, and just how we're collaborating. So the ways of working, there is now, this is an evolving area on how we should work better, right? Distributed across regions, distributed across time zones, global teams, even if you're in the same city and the same office, half of the time you're working on Zoom and so on, right? So absolutely an area which will probably see its moment of glory now.
So, we have around 3-4 questions where people are asking about skills and some tools. So I'll just club all of them together. Like Hitesh is asking, I've used Excel for analytic data analysis during my career as business analyst for banking clients. Is there any particular tool which can help me grow further in data analytics? Then Ninad has the question that do the data analytics guy need some exposure on cloud computing and querying database, that is SQL side exposure? How much is it is helpful if anyone only has experience in SQL and wants to move into data analytics side? And similarly, Prasanna has that how important cloud skills are for, or is it good to do any certification or understanding is enough?
Sorry, repeat the last question, please.
So Prasanna is asking that for an analytics person, how important are cloud skills? Is it good to do a certification or understanding is enough?
Okay. I would say if you're just starting, right? So all good questions from a technology perspective. I would, from a cloud perspective, I would say definitely we are all migrating onto cloud, right? There is a full race to go to the cloud. It would only time will tell how long we can stay in the cloud until we exit the clouds, and because it just becomes too, there's a whole kind of school of thought that what are we getting into, right? But that's just very early days to even talk about exiting the clouds. Right now, we're struggling to get onto the clouds, and then once you get on the clouds, how really you operate? When you say cloud, right? What does it mean? Yes, you are hosting some of the technologies on cloud environments give you some flexibility to basically scale up, scale down, and there is economies of scale and all of that kind of thing. From a data analysis perspective, I would say you could understand what the fundamentals are, but unless you are getting too much into the technologies, right? Unless you're deploying analytics on the edge is what you call. That's where you would really need, where things happen, you're deploying analytics, their point of sales, for example, or, Shell is using a lot of edge analytics just on their drilling centers and so on. Unless you are at that cutting edge, you would really need only peripheral knowledge of cloud. Just understand the concepts, what it means, and what it means for you, basically, right, as analytics. I think that should suffice. But if you're talking about, then the next question is SQL. Will SQL suffice? I would tend to say no, just because the kind of data we are dealing with not anymore structured, right? So we will need to know about some columnar databases. We will need to know about NoSQL as well, how to query unstructured databases, right? And there are just so many things in the database area. We're not even calling it databases anymore, right? We're calling it data lakes, and then there's a data mesh fabric and all of that on top of it. So how you're going to query and get access to the data and how you're going to interact, use that data is going to be very different now on. Now, really depending on where you land. If you land in a firm which is an Oracle house and they are still into SQL and all of that stuff, you're good, right? But if anybody is really looking at any of the future or new age firms, or even this generation firms, then you will need to learn new data querying techniques as well. Definitely. SQL will not suffice. And there was one question, so I went in reverse order. I forgot the first question.
I'll just pull it.
Sure. And I think we're up on time, so maybe that's the last question we can take.
Yeah, so I think Ninad had that SQL question.
Yeah.
It was about the cloud skills. If any certification you already took that. Yeah, so Hitesh had that question. I have used Excel for data analysis during my career as business analyst for banking clients. Is there any particular tool which can help me grow further in data analytics?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's no tool. It depends on what the organization is using. So as long as you can onboard any one tool, apart from Excel, if you can get skills on any one tool, more or less the tools will operate in a similar fashion, right? The syntax will change maybe, or some of the features will change maybe. But if you can, understand one tool properly, then it's like very transferable again, I would say. Right. But I would say if you're really getting into a core analytics team, then Excel will not suffice.
Guys, if your question has not been answered, we ran out of time. I'm sending you the email address of Career Services. You can share your questions over there, and I'll connect with Meenal later, and I'll consolidate all these questions, and I'll try and get the answer from Meenal if you allow.
No, absolutely. Very welcome. So send the questions to Shivam, and then, I can address that a little bit. Maybe give me time, but yes, I will get back to Shivam, and then he can circulate that back to you. Thank you so much. And very valid questions.
It was a very informative session. I'm sure everyone enjoyed and learned from your experience.
Thank you so much. I really loved all the questions. Very, very, interesting and very valid questions. And I wish you all the best with your upcoming transitions and, careers. Thank you so much. Thanks, Shivam, for the opportunity.
So, thank you for taking out time today for interacting with our learners and doing this. And we'd love to see you again doing another Q&A and
sure.
Doing this again for our learners. And we'd love to see you again here sometime.
Soon. Absolutely. I had a great time. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.